What's going on, guys? Welcome to the video. So today I want to do a tier list for all of the new Pokemon introduced in the new Indigo Disc DLC. So let's go ahead and jump right into things. You'll see right away I've already got some placements down here. I don't want to go too in-depth into these, but I've got the Mythicals, which are almost always banned from official competitive play. Don't see that changing. Not included here is Meloetta, which is actually catchable in-game without any kind of event or anything. So I mean, I'd imagine it's still a mythical and will get banned, but I mean, it's one of the first times we're actually going to have a mythical catchable in a main series game, so you never know. Restricted Pokemon here, didn't really group them in any kind of order, but I guess Lunala would be the best one of these. But these are not going to be allowed for at least another like 4 or 5 months, possibly more, so not really going to go too in-depth into these now. And then all the Pokemon here in D tier. D is for do not use, because these Pokemon, they're not good. So I just threw them in D tier. Don't really want to talk too much about them. So let's get started with some of these new guys. Archaludon up first. I think he's actually really solid. Stamina is a great ability. Stalwart's really unique, but I'd imagine Stamina would be the way to go on it. It's also too bulky for Sturdy, but Steel Dragon, really nice typing, same as Dialga. And then it gets Electro Shot, its signature move, 100% accuracy, and it's pretty much like Meteor Beam, except Electric type. And it's a little bit higher power, a little bit better accuracy, but its stats are also really solid, so it can make use of, that type of special attack boost. Defense boosts are going to be really nice because it also learns, where is it here? It learns Body Press. So you really have to be careful attacking this thing. I mean, you can switch it in on a resisted Surging Strikes, get a couple boosts. So then, you can take close combat a lot easier as well. You obviously threaten Urshifu with Electro Shot. The thing is, for Archaludon, I don't see it, and I might be wrong here, I don't see it as a huge splashable Pokemon the way that, like Incineroar, Fluttermane, Rillaboom, the Amoonguss, those kind of Pokemon are very splashable where they fit on, all kinds of different teams. I feel like Archaludon really needs a specific kind of team. In particular, I think it really benefits from having Rain. Because I don't really think, like, what's the item called? Power Herb. I don't know about that kind of set. And then if you were to just forego Electro Shot, and if you were to just use, all of its regular moves, like it gets Iron Defense, Body Press, but there's better Pokemon that can do that. If you just used it, without taking advantage of its signature move, I just feel like it's too inferior to other Pokemon. So I feel like to make the best use of it, I think it belongs on, whether it's a team with like Pelipper, for, Drizzle, Instant Rain, or if it's like a Tornadus with Rain Dance, for Manual Rain. That could work too, but I'm kind of torn because, like, on the teams that, on those Rain teams, like, I think it's definitely an A tier choice, but because it's not splashable, I don't think, I'm going to put it at the very top of B tier for now. I'll see how the list looks at the end. Maybe I'll change it. But I do think Archaludon's really good on the specific type of Rain teams that can take advantage of it. Next up, we've got Hydrapple. This one I don't think is very good. Like, it's not bad, but yeah, there's just so many other grass types that I feel like are better. But Grass Dragon, like, it's fine. It's not the worst typing. Like, you've got a number of pretty nice resistances, including like quadruple resistances, which are increasingly common here with Electric. The quad water resist is nice, grass resist nice. Like, I think the typing's fine. Super Sweet Syrup, honestly, why this only works once the entire battle is beyond me. They gave it the Zacian treatment. I don't know why, but they did. So unfortunately, that ability's not great. I feel like Regenerator is going to be the way to go. Super Sweet Syrup, though, would be so nice if it just activated every time you brought it in. Then it's like, okay, now Magma Storm Heatran's online to pair with it. There's a lot of cool things you could do. But I feel like Regenerator is just going to be the more consistent option. Its stats are not bad. Like, its special attack's good. It's decently bulky. Its speed is awful, though, which is not great because it's not really like a Trick Room sweeper or anything. In terms of support, like the supportive moves it gets aren't great, but it does get some, solid ones like Infestation, Yawn. It gets Pollen Puff too, wherever that is, but just trust me, it gets Pollen Puff. And then its signature move, and this is the problem, like Fickle Beam, it's very fickle because only 30% of the time it'll double in power, which is insane, right? 160 base power stab move off 120 base special attack. I mean, that's going to be really nice damage, but it's just so inconsistent that I just can't really rank it super high. Syrup Bomb is nice. It gives you, some extra speed control, but again, the accuracy is bad. It takes multiple turns to, really see a big benefit from it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really see it as being great. Like, you could run maybe some kind of Assault Vest set, with like Sucker Punch, Syrup, whatever, maybe Energy Ball if you actually need the damage to KO Urshifu, I don't know. Maybe Infestation, Sucker Punch, Fickle Beam, I don't know. It's just like, it's okay to me. Like, it's not great. It's definitely worse than Archaludon. I would either put it at like the top of C tier or the very bottom of B tier. I guess I'll just put it in B tier for now, and we'll see what else shakes out with this list. But yeah, I don't think it's great, but it's not the worst. Definitely worse than Archaludon, in my opinion. Next up is, actually, what's this guy called again? Gouging Fire, I think? Yeah, Gouging Fire up next. I'm actually a huge fan of Gouging Fire. I feel like there's a lot of potential here. Fire Dragon is really nice typing. The ability, in most cases, not going to be super relevant, unfortunately. I mean, there's always, like, Manual Sun from, like, Tornadus. We might start to see that, right? For the current meta, we see a lot of Rain Dance Tornadus paired with, like, Urshifu and whatnot, but who knows? Sometimes you see the Sunny Day Tornadus, and maybe it pops up now a little bit more now that we have Gouging Fire and Raging Bolt. You already have Flutter Mane, which can take advantage of it. But its stats are really nice. The distribution, too, is pretty nice. The special attack being really low is nice because that means more stat points in the more useful stats. Like, the bulk is really nice here. The speed is totally fine, like, very average. And then the attack is, same as Hisuian Arcanine, where, it's in that range, Arcanine, Hisuian Arcanine, where you're doing, like, a decent amount of damage. Especially since it's able to fire off right here Flare Blitz, 120 base power. Honestly, even Heat Crash. I guess we'll see how the math actually shakes out. But Heat Crash doesn't give you the recoil, but this thing is gigantic, almost 600 kilograms, so he's gigantic. So I don't know for sure, but depending on how the math works out, maybe it'll be a 120 base power move against most, if not all, relevant things, in which case then it's better than Flare Blitz, but Flare Blitz is going to be more consistent, just have that downside. We'll have to wait and see on that, but the big thing about Gouging Fire to me is its signature move, Burning Bulwark. I mean, this move is insane. We've seen before, like Spiky Shield, you get that little bit of chip damage, which is nice. We've seen King's Shield. Wait, what is that even right, actually? I forget. Aegislash's signature protecting move, where it lowers your attack when you hit into it with an attacking move. We've seen Toxapex's, which poisons you when you attack into it. This one burns you, which is the best out of all of the possible other alternative protecting moves. Like, getting a burn on a physical attacker, especially since, right, this works on moves that make direct contact, but when you think of physical attackers, I mean, most of their moves are making direct contact. And so opponents are really going to have to think twice before attacking Gouging Fire, with their physical attackers anyway. Because if they do, then if you protect against it, I mean, they just get burned and their physical attacker becomes completely useless. So they really have to think twice, unless they're Urshifu, of course, which, don't get me started on Urshifu, but this move, insane. Now, moves that don't do damage, so things like Taunt, Spore, moves like that are still going to go through it, which is the one downside of it, but I think that's pretty fair considering the upside of threatening the burn is just so good. Like, think about Iron Hands. Every single one of its moves makes contact, so Iron Hands just can't even really ever attack it safely, it feels like. And what makes it even better is that you can really take advantage of that free time that you're going to get because of the threat of attacking into a burning bulwark. And so you actually have access to, right here, Howl is one of them. This boosts both Gouging Fire's attack and the allies' attack. So depending on the rest of your team, Howl might make some sense. But it also gets Dragon Dance, and it has the speed to actually take advantage of it. Like, its speed is just so-so, so it can really benefit from that +1 speed. Its attack is also, you know, so-so, it's decent. That can also take advantage of the +1. And then you can just, you know, spam your Flare Blitz, spam your Heat Crash, if that ends up, you know, working out depending on the metagame's weight of the Pokemon. And then it also gets, I mean, Dragon Claw's fine for some secondary stab, especially to hit, like, Raging Bolt. Hit Incineroar, too. It gets Morning Sun to potentially heal up. I don't know how to really fit that onto a moveset, but maybe there's a way. I think it gets Stomping Tantrum, too. Yeah, Stomping Tantrum, so there's a move that can hit Incineroar and Raging Bolt for some coverage, potentially. And so I think this Pokemon has a lot of potential. To really set up, Breaking Swipe's another one that could be decent, even on a Dragon Dance set, right? Because your damage is coming from your fire move for the most part because of how, you know, they're 120 base power moves. Flare Blitz is always, Heat Crash is, I don't know, most of the time, possibly. But Breaking Swipe is nice for just supportive move, to again, just reduce the damage of physical attackers that aren't named Urshifu. So I think this Pokemon has a lot of potential, but the downside is right here. It's a fire type, and I'm going to go ahead and spoil things right now, actually, I guess. The king of competitive Pokemon is going right into S tier, and he's the downside here. I anticipate Incineroar being on over half of all teams. It is insanely broken. It got, for whatever reason, Game Freak buffed it, giving it knockoff, which is insane that it actually got buffed. You know, I was looking at the changes they made heading into Scarlet and Violet. Like, they nerfed Zacian, they nerfed the spread moves from the Calyrex riders, they nerfed Grassy Glide. I'm like, okay, Game Freak is, you know, they're nerfing some of the serious problems that we've had in the past. I was like, okay, Incineroar used to not have access to Parting Shot. I had hope. Maybe they'll just not give it access to Parting Shot and make it go back to U-turn. Instead, it still has Parting Shot, but now it also has Knockoff, which is insane. It even has Helping Hand, although it's a little bit harder to fit on the moveset, but still, the fact that they buffed it, insane. But anyway, because Incineroar exists, it's just, unless you're going to use multiple fire types on the same team, which I guess you could, it's just going to be hard, because Gouging Fire is always going to have to compete with the alternative being, I could be using Incineroar. And so, for me, again, it's like Archaludon. Like, I want to put it in either A or B tier, but I'm going to put it in B tier here. I'm going to need to see some results first before I move it into A tier. I just think there's a lot of good fire types, Incineroar being the best of all, so yeah, I'm going to stick it in B tier, but I do think there's definitely some potential here with this Pokemon, and I'm really excited to try it out and see what other players can come up with for how best to use it. I'd imagine if you're not going to use Incineroar and instead using this, I mean, that opens the door to using Landorus Therian on the team. Maybe use a lot of hate for opposing Incineroar, since Incineroar can, you know, have a good matchup into it. So maybe you throw like King Gambit on the team or something like that. Who knows, but I definitely think that this Pokemon has some potential. So we'll see. Up next is the other new Past Paradox form, Raging Bolt. This is going in A tier for me. I see it as being very splashable, like Incineroar, like Fluttermane, etc. This is also, right now in the metagame, we have a lot of physical attackers, and so other than like Fluttermane, Golden Go, we've really had a lack of good special attackers, and this looks like a good new addition to just a generic, solid special attacking threat. And it's also electric type, which we've also kind of lacked. Like, Iron Hands has been really the only one, and so now we have a special electric attacker, since Regieleki has been so bad in Scarlet and Violet. So I think Raging Bolt is super solid. I'll go to its stats first, and go to its signature move after, but its speed is pretty mediocre, which I'll get to later is actually okay. Like, it's at a speed tier where if you use it on a Tailwind team, it's fine. You can get up to a point where you're outspeeding, you know, all non-Tailwind boosted Pokemon, if you get your own Tailwind up. And its special attack is really solid, 137. I mean, that's the same as Lunala, I think, or at least close. I mean, its special attack, really good, higher than Fluttermane just by a little bit. Massive HP stat here, and its defense is 91, 89. That's totally solid. So it's bulky, massive special attack. Its speed is mediocre, but fine. And, you know, it's got a really nice typing to boot. I mean, Electric Dragon, you resist water, which is big against Urshifus. You threaten back with super effective hits. You know, Rillaboom, for example, you can switch it into Rillabooms because you resist grass. I think it's just a super solid Pokemon. Resist fire is really nice. But what really sets it apart here, if I can find it, here it is, the signature move, Thunderclap. So this is essentially a special version of Sucker Punch, and it's electric type. So really solid. This is going to allow you to kind of bypass this mediocre speed stat and, you know, get some priority to be able to threaten Urshifus before they can even attack. And for Urshifu to dodge this, it's going to have to use either, you know, Detect or a move like Taunt, Swords Dance, Substitute, or Aqua Jet. And if you're forcing Urshifu to do those things, I mean, that's a W, because Urshifu, we all know just how threatening it is, just how much damage it can put out. And so if you can kind of pin it so that it can't use its attacking moves without fear of just getting KO'd, I mean, that's big. You could run like Assault Vest on it, you can run Magnet, you could run a Calm Mindset. I mean, there's multiple different ways you can kind of take advantage of this. I mentioned you could run Tailwind. You could even have Sunny Day on Tornadus. Honestly, whether you do or not, it could make sense on a Tailwind kind of team. I think it's just really solid, really splashable, whether it's a Tailwind team, whether it's a more balanced kind of team. I feel like it just fits on so many different types of teams, where I'm going to throw it in A tier. And in terms of competition, like, there's not that much. I mean, Iron Hands is really the only other electric type, and they are both completely different. So it just kind of has its own sort of niche here, and I think that's awesome. I think it's definitely going to be an A tier pick. So moving on to the future paradoxes. What's this one called? Iron Crown, is it? No, that's the other one. Iron Boulder, the Terrakion one. This one, its typing is not good. Rock, Psychic. Its ability is essentially useless. Which again doesn't necessarily matter. Like, we've seen Iron Hands just dominate. The big thing about this Pokemon is its signature move, Mighty Cleave, can go through Protect, and we know how good that is from Urshifu. However, unlike Urshifu, this move doesn't crit, so Incineroar can just weaken its attack, threaten it with Knockoff. So yeah, Golden Go also just walls both of its stabs. Fluttermane can outspeed and hit it with Shadow Ball. I guess I'll show you guys the stats here. Its stats are fine. Like, it's decently bulky, 90, 80, 108, and its HP and defenses is fine. 120 attack is solid. 124 speed is really good. And it gets decent enough coverage. I mean, the Rock move already is going to hit most Pokemon, and then the fighting types like Urshifu, Iron Hands that resist it are going to, you know, you threaten them with Psychic type stab moves. Like, it's fine. Steel types can, you've got some fighting type moves here. I think Sacred Sword, yeah. I think it even gets close combat too if you want extra damage. The thing is, again, just Intimidate existing, Golden Go existing, Rillaboom existing, faster Pokemon like Fluttermane that can outspeed and hit it super effective existing. It also doesn't learn Rock Slide for whatever reason. And so I don't think this Pokemon is that good. I would say the fact that it hits through Protect is enough for me to put it in B tier. Like, better than Hydrapple, but maybe on par with Gouging Fire, or maybe a little worse. Like, where I would see Iron Boulder excelling the most would be a Tailwind team, because the Tailwind is, right, it's limited for just 4 turns, and so you have a really limited window with which you can take advantage of it. And what opponents will usually do to stall that out is protect. And so if you have a Pokemon that can just hit right through protect under Tailwind, that's huge. And we've seen that with Urshifu, how dominant it can be. Again, it is a little bit different. The fact it's multi-strike means it hits through Focus Sashes. The fact it always crits means you bypass Intimidates and Defense Boosts, so there's just no counterplay to it, whereas Iron Boulder has plenty of counterplay. So, yeah, that's kind of why it's only getting B tier, but yeah, I think it's a decent enough option for Tailwind teams. I think if it would have had an ability that would actually do something, then it could be a totally different story. Like if maybe Tapu Koko existed, then maybe things are different, but it doesn't. So it has no ability, and it's just, it's so-so. So throwing it in B tier. Next up, we've got Iron Crown. This one's interesting. There's one big downside again. This guy right here, Incineroar. But I'll get to that in a bit. Its stats are fine. Like, again, it's pretty bulky, 90, 100, 108 in its HP and defenses. Special attack, solid, 122. 98 speed is fine. That's faster than Urshifu. Steel Psychic typing is fine. I mean, that's not bad. We've seen in the past, like, Metagross has been really successful with this typing, although back then, Steel was an even better typing, as was Psychic for that matter. But again, it has no ability, but the one thing, I guess two things that make this Pokemon really stand out are its signature move, Tachyon Cutter. This, like Urshifu, is a multi-strike move, so, like Urshifu Water anyway. It's a multi-strike move, so you can bypass Focus Sashes. Most notable, probably going to be Chien-Pao, since it can be one-hit KO'd by this move and usually has Focus Sash. The other is, where is it? Expanding Force. So we actually have a fast Expanding Force user. It's got just about the same special attack as Armarouge, but it's much bulkier, and it's got a very nice defensive typing to boot. So I definitely see this Pokemon, really its only usage is the fact that it is a fast Expanding Force user. However, the one downside, right, Incineroar. It completely walls this Pokemon, and it threatens it with Fire, with Dark. Both are super effective. Neither Steel nor Psychic do anything to Incineroar. Really has no way to hit it. And so if you're using this Pokemon, you got to use this move right here. Focus Blast. 70% accuracy, which is horrible, but at least this gives you a way to hit Incineroar. The other option is Terra Blast with something like Terra Water. Although Incineroars, I'd imagine, will be able to take that. Possibly, maybe even Focus Blast too, depending on how they're trained. But you at least need some way to hit Incineroar, because it's going to be on so many teams. And if you're running one of the Psychic Spam teams with Expanding Force, Indeedee can't touch Incineroar, Iron Crown can't touch it. So you're either going to have to Terrastalize it and use Terra Blast for a super effective hit, or use Focus Blast, and neither is ideal. So my verdict on it is, again, going into B tier. Where is it? Yeah, it's going to be, I don't know, here, I guess. It's pretty similar to the other two paradoxes in this tier, where it's going to be kind of niche. I'd say it's probably worse than the other two. Maybe on par with Iron Boulder, but worse than Gouging Fire. But I guess better than Hydrapple. So it's so-so. Like, there's teams that it fits on and will do well with, but on the Psychic Spam teams, they really need multiple ways to be able to deal with Incineroar, because Iron Crown can't, Indeedee can't, and so you're going to have to do something with the team to enable yourself to deal with Incineroar, because it will be everywhere. Okay, next up, Terrapagos. I don't really want to talk about it too much, because most likely it will be a restricted Pokemon. We don't know for sure, though, yet. We'll know soon. But unlike Ogerpon, this one might become a restricted form. Just its stellar form, when it terastalizes with the stellar Terra type, has massive base stat total. It's also 600 base stat total in its just regular form. Even though his stats aren't actually good for a base 600 Pokemon, like, it's actually mediocre, really mediocre. So I wouldn't be surprised, actually, if it got legal, but it's just the Stellar form would probably be too much in a non-restricted format. But I'll talk a little bit about how I see it in a restricted format, since that's where its ability here, if I scroll up, Terraform Zero is really going to come into play. So in its regular form, which is this one, as soon as it gets sent into battle, it turns into this thing. And it has a buffed up version of multi-scale. So when it's at full HP, any damage dealing move becomes not very effective. Other than ghost type moves, they'll still be, they still won't do anything, because it's normal type. But that's big for like Koraidon, for example, as opposed to multi-scale. If Koraidon uses that fighting type move to hit it from full HP, it's going to get turned into a not very effective move, which is actually big, so a lot better than multi-scale in that scenario. But when it becomes a stellar Terra type and terastallizes, it gets this new Terraform Zero ability. So it's not quite as good as Airlock, in the sense that it's not everlasting. But as soon as you terastallize or bring it into battle onto the field, it will remove weather and terrain. So Koraidon, Miraidon, Kyogre, Groudon, Rillaboom, Indeedee, all their terrains or weathers are all gone as soon as you terastallize or send it out. And that's huge, right? That gives you some really nice counterplay just to multiple different field effects in just one Pokemon. The downside is you have to spend your terastallization on it. So that means none of your other Pokemon can use terastallization. If you have this Pokemon on your team, I mean, you cannot bring this Pokemon into a restricted format with these mediocre stats. I mean, you do no damage, your defenses aren't even that good. Sure, your ability protects you from full HP once, but you also just, you don't do anything when you're on the field with this Pokemon, and that's what I think is really going to hold it back. Like, in its stellar form, like, it becomes really bulky, which is nice, but it still doesn't have like great special attack for a restricted format. The one thing, like, it has its signature move, where is it? Terra Starstorm. So with the stellar Terra type, when you go into stellar form, it's going to become a multi-target move, so it'll hit both opponents' Pokemon, which is really nice, and it's going to be Stella type, so it's going to be neutral on everything, so no Pokemon will resist the move, and any terastallized Pokemon will be hit super effective, so really, really broken move. The problem is, it's not going to get like a stab boost or anything. It only gets a 1.2 or 20% boost from the Stella Terra type. Now, it will always get that boost, so unlike normal Pokemon that Stella terastallize, it's just once per type. For Terrapagos, it just always gets that 1.2 times boost on Terra Starstorm. So that's really good, but again, it just, against the restricteds, like, that just might not be an insane amount of damage. And it just doesn't do anything else on the field. Like, it doesn't get any kind of support option. Really, the way I see this Pokemon playing out would be, you can Calm Mind because of your bulk, and then you just spam Terra Starstorm. And you try and time it right, so, you know, you terastallize at the right moment to get rid of terrain or weather or whatever. And then you just hope that that's enough, that by the time the opponent, like, switches out their, you know, Kyogre or their Miraidon or Koraidon or whatever, and then brings it back in, by that time you've already got, you know, enough board position, a good enough board position, you've set up some Calm Minds or whatever, and it's just too late by that point. But I don't know, we'll just have to see. I'm excited to see how it goes in the restricted format, but to me, the Pokemon seems so-so. Like, it doesn't, I don't look at it and think, wow, this is going to be awesome. The best factor is it can hit everything neutrally with a multi-target powerful spread move, and it's immune to Calyrex Shadow Rider. And then, of course, this Terraform Zero ability is nice support. But Terra Shell, I mean, you're probably going to want to stay in this form to take one hit so that you can, you know, save Terraform Zero for when the moment's right. But I don't know. I'm gonna, well, I'm not ranking it because it's restricted, but I'm gonna guess that it's so-so. Like, it would probably be in this like kind of Lunala tier where it's like good, but it's not at the level of like Calyrex Shadow Rider or Raiden or Kyogre or, you know, Raiden or any of those types. Like, I would guess that it would be worse, but we'll see. That's a long ways off. This guy, Pekka Runt, is not even on this page on Cerebi, but you guys can just trust me for it. I'm not even going to really talk about it because it's looks like it's going to be a mythical Pokemon from an online event, so we're probably never going to get to use this. But even if we could, it looks awful. It has 88 base stats across the board. Yeah, it's just not here. But it has 88 base stat across the board, except in physical defense, where it's 160. It has the goofiest stat distribution. Its ability is also bad. Anytime you confuse a Pokemon, it also, or anytime you poison a Pokemon, it also confuses it, which is cool. Like, you can poison gas, and that becomes a spread poison move, so you can get the double confusion. But I don't know. It seems kind of bad to me. It just does no damage, doesn't really get any supportive moves, and yeah, its ability is so-so. So either way, that's all I'll say about it, because we probably won't ever get to use it. Alright, on to the remaining new Pokemon in Indigo Disc. Venusaur I'm going to put in C tier. It's a Chlorophyll user competing with Lilligant. What it has going for it is the Poison typing and Bulk. It's fast enough where it can take advantage of Chlorophyll, put opponents to sleep with Sleep Powder, but you don't necessarily need Focus Sash. Like, your Poison typing, your natural Bulk, should let you survive some attacks so that, you know, maybe you don't need Focus Sash. Maybe you can use it on a different Pokemon, or maybe you can opt for a different item entirely on Venusaur that can enhance, you know, some of its other aspects. Honestly, maybe even B tier. I don't know. I feel like Lilligant's still better, so I guess we'll see. I don't know. I'll put it at the top, very top of C tier, but it's probably better than Hydrapple, honestly. I guess we'll see. They both are totally different, right? Venusaur you're only ever going to see on Torkoal teams, so I guess it's hard to say. And on those teams, I imagine Lilligant, the fact that his After You is just going to set it apart. So, yeah, I'm just going to put Venusaur in C tier. Dugong is terrible, but it gets Purr Song and Fake Out. I think it might be the only Pokemon that gets both of those moves. I'm not sure, but it has, like, decent enough bulk for a Purse Trap team. Maybe there's going to be some stupid gimmick Purse Trap team on ladder running Dugong, and so for that reason, I'll put it in C tier. Porygon 2, actually, pretty good, honestly. Like, I'll put Porygon 2 somewhere up here, I guess. Porygon 2 is super bulky with Eviolite. Its normal typing is just really solid defensively, because most things are going to hit it neutral. It can set up Trick Room. It can recover, stall. Download is really nice because there's so many physical attackers, and Pokemon like Urshifu have naturally higher physical defense, so a lot of times it can get that special attack boost and actually become a threat. You can give it Terra Blast, actually, because I think it's the same base power as Tri Attack, so you lose out on like the side effect of Tri Attack. But if you have a Terra type of whatever, Fairy maybe, it gives you, you know, that extra utility if you Terrastalize, that Terra Blast can actually change type into a different type, which is cool. Tri Attack, I mean, still good for that side effect chance, because Freeze from Tri Attack is broken. Trace is even a really good ability on it, especially with Incineroar everywhere. You can copy Intimidate and just intimidate them back. However, Incineroar gets Knockoff, and so Knockoff I expect to be everywhere, and when you're an Eviolite Pokemon, you don't want to see Knockoff, because then you lose all of your bulk. And so for that reason, I'm keeping it in B tier, but I think Porygon definitely has some potential. I think it's pretty solid. Smeargle I'll put in C tier. It's such a degenerate Pokemon. It's good. You're gonna have Spore. I imagine for its protecting move, it'll use Gouging, whatever it's called, Gouging Fires, Burning Bulwark move, which is cool. So Spore, you got that Burning Bulwark, and then you just do Smeargle things, whatever else. Follow Me, Fake Out. You know, there's so many. You have every single move in existence to choose from. Moody to get the speed boost, so then you can Spore even faster. The following turn is insane. It's just not a splashable Pokemon. Like, it's only going to appear on gimmick teams and probably like hard Trick Room teams. And so that's why I'm going to throw it in C tier. I don't think it's great, but it's fine. It's usable. Hitmontop also going to go in C tier. It's Intimidate, and it can hit Incineroar super effective. It's faster than it too. It also gets Wide Guard, which is cool, but it's still worse than Incineroar, so I don't expect it to see much play. Raikou I'm going to throw in B tier, actually. It gets some nice supportive moves, like it gets dual screens. It's another electric type. I think it's just worse than Raging Bolt for most teams, but there will be like some teams that are going to want that kind of faster electric type that can not only threaten damage, because it does have good special attack like Tapu Koko. It's not as fast, but it can set up screens, and it's got some decent bulk, decent speed, and it can't be flinched thanks to Inner Focus. So I think it's pretty good. No, not pretty good, but it's usable at least, and better than the below tier Pokemon. Entei is really good. I think it's, I don't know, actually. I'll put it at like the top of B tier, I guess. Like, it's more splashable on teams than Archaludon, I guess. But Sacred Fire is absolutely insane. It gets extreme speed. It can't be intimidated. Can't be flinched thanks to Inner Focus. I mean, Entei is really, really good. It can work on pretty much all kinds of teams, really. It can work on Tailwind teams, work on more balanced teams. It's just really solid. Honestly, it could even go into A tier. I would put it into A tier if Incineroar didn't exist again. Even though Entei has a good matchup into Incineroar in that you don't care about Fake Out, you don't care about Intimidate. The thing is, though, Incineroar can still switch into you. It can still Parting Shot. It can knock off whatever your held item is. It's also competing for a fire slot on the team, so I'm going to keep Entei in B tier, but I'll keep it at the top of B tier along with Archaludon. Suicune, I think, is really solid. Very much like we saw Salamence at the tail end of the current regulation, Regulation E, as kind of an anti-meta Tailwind setter that's not Prankster. So Suicune has a great matchup into Urshifu. It's really bulky. It has a lot of nice supportive moves. Scald is just really threatening with the massive burn chance and being able to hit Incineroar super effectively. It also has Inner Focus, so the Incineroars and Rillabooms can't fake out your Tailwind. However, you are weak to Raging Bolt, you are weak to Rillaboom, so there is still going to be some counterplay, and Suicune doesn't really offer too much damage in return. But I do think it's really solid. There's even a case to put it in A tier, but I'm going to leave it in at the top of B tier. I think these, I guess, 3, maybe 4, I think are all super solid. And there's a case to be made to put them in A tier. But I'll keep Suicune at the top of B tier. Metagross, honestly, I'm not big on Metagross, unfortunately. I love Metagross. I've had an event, Rizzo Metagross distribution. So I'm definitely partial to Metagross, but I don't know, I'll put it at like B tier somewhere. Like, it's fine. Steel Psychic again, good typing. It's got clear body, so you don't care about Intimidate, don't care about Parting Shot. But you still have some of the same problems. Like, I feel like if you're gonna run Metagross, you're kind of have to use like Assault Vest or Weakness Policy. But I just don't know if the damage is there in return if you don't use Weakness Policy. So I don't know. And it's kind of slow. I feel like it's not bad, but I feel like there's just better options. Like, you could use it on some kind of hybrid Trick Room team where you can power it up with, I don't know, like a Shadow Sneak from Dusclops. Like, maybe instead of a Blood Moon Ursaluna, you got your Metagross. But I don't know. I feel like just Incineroar, still just too good into it. I mean, it can still hit it with Knockoff, still hit it with Flare Blitz. So, yeah. Registeel is pretty solid. I mean, it's not great, but it can spam Iron Defense, Body Press. It gets Amnesia, so, you know, it can just go for a stall game. It's going to do the same things it did before. So, you know, it's got a niche there. Latias, I'm also a big fan of. I'll put it up here in B tier. Latias got a pretty sizable buff, actually. Its signature move, Mist Ball, which used to be 65 base power, I think, and it had a 50% chance of lowering the opponent's special attack, is now 95 base power, and it still has the same 50% chance of lowering special attack. So Latios is a fast, bulky Tailwind setter. It can threaten Urshifu really hard, and then any special attackers, you can use its signature move. Not only is it going to do a lot of damage, but that 50% chance to drop special attack is going to be really nice. So I think Latios, and it gets a bunch of good supportive moves other than just Tailwind too. So I think Latios definitely has some potential, very much like Suicune here. So excited to try it out. Latios, though, I'm going to put in C tier only because Latios exists, and so I can't really see a reason for using Latios over Latios. Like, it has higher special attack, but that used to matter more in the past, where dragons were seen as like this massive damage dealing threat back in the day. Like Dragon Gem Draco Meteors were doing insane amounts of damage, and so Latios was huge back then. But now it just doesn't have the same offensive capabilities, and so you're better off just, using Latios. They're both going to like 2-hit KO a bunch of things, just Latios is bulkier. So Bastiodon, I mean, it's like Dugong. It's terrible, but I imagine there's going to be some degenerates on, the in-game ladder or showdown ladder that are going to use guard split Bastiodon with Chansey as like the budget Shuckle. So I'll put it in C tier. Rhyperior, I'll put in C tier too. I don't think it's great, but in Trick Room, I mean, it's got a high attack, maybe with weakness policy too. Solid Rock gives it some nice bulk. Lightning Rod is nice, although, how many electric type attacks are there, and how many, Pokemon weak to electric are there to protect? It's really just Urshifu Water, but is that going to fit on the same team as Rhyperior? I don't know. You can always go for like Terra Water with Lightning Rod, which is cool. So you have different options for it, but I just don't think it's that good. It's okay though. It's like fine. I have Electivire and Magmortar here because the Babby forms were not on this tier list, but these two are awful. They would go in D tier, but Electabuzz and Magmar I'm going to put in C tier. The reason for that is they get Follow Me as an egg move. This used to be an event exclusive move, but now they get it as an egg move, which is cool. And Follow Me is an insane supportive move in competitive Pokemon. I don't know if I really have to go too in-depth as to why, but being able to support your ally redirect moves is really nice to enable your ally to either set up, get some damage off, do whatever. And what's nice about them is their abilities. So with EVI, they can become bulky enough to actually use Follow Me. But then their abilities, both of them. So Electabuzz has Static, which is really nice into Urshifu because Urshifu's Surging Strikes is multi-hit. So that's multiple chances to get that paralysis. But its other ability is Vital Spirit. And so very much like Ogerpon, where you can sit in front of a Moongus and just follow me away the spores, Electabuzz and Magmar can do the exact same thing because they both get Vital Spirit. Instead of Static, Magmar gets Flame Body, which is even better. However, you are weak to Surging Strikes, so it'll just kill you if you don't get the burn immediately. But again, that's multiple chances to burn Urshifu, which is really nice. So those two, going to get C tier from me. Excadrill is going to be a new way to take advantage of sand. Honestly, I don't know. I guess I'll put it in... I don't know. I guess I'll put it in C tier ahead of Venusaur. I don't know if I'm the biggest believer in sand. But it's an option. It's better than Lycanroc for sure. You could give it maybe like Clear Amulet so you can ignore Intimidate, and then you can just wreck Amoonguss, you can wreck Raging Bolt. Rillaboom, because you're part Steel, you resist it. Urshifu is still going to kill you. But I think it's, solid. Like, it's a good pick. I mean, honestly, it's probably better than Hydrapple. I guess I might move Hydrapple down at the end of this. Whimsicott, really solid for Tailwind. I don't think it's A tier. In a restricted format, it very well might deserve A tier, because in these restricted formats, your non-restricteds are usually there to support, like Incineroar, Whimsicott, etc. And so having this kind of, prankster support option with Focus Sash in a restricted format where you have just way stronger Pokemon to take advantage of what Whimsicott can do, is so much bigger. Also, with Open Team Sheet, because Whimsicott has a gigantic move pool of good supportive moves, when you know what's coming, it's a little bit easier to deal with. So I'm going to put it in B tier for that reason, but it's still extremely good and even better in a restricted format, I would imagine. Scrafty, like Hitmontop, is an Intimidate option, but a little bit better because it's bulkier. But again, it's Dark type, doesn't do much damage, weak to Flutter Mane, so it's going in C tier. These guys, I'll put them in B tier, all three of them, for the same reason. Like, Beat Up is, still on the table. Not only does Whimsicott get beat up, but Mousehold still exists and is very slightly faster than this trio. So you could run like a max speed, friend card, focus sash, beat up, Mousehold. So you can actually give these guys gigantic attack stats. And friend guard will just improve their survivability. And if Mousehold survives, you have Follow Me. You could also use Annihilate on the same team because that also takes advantage of beat up. However, it's not great, so that's why they're at the bottom of B tier. And which one you use depends on, the typing defensively that you value, as well as offensively. Terrakion the best because it can spam Rock Slide with +4 attack, but the other two have nice defensive options against some teams. So either way, they're like the bottom of B tier. Honestly, when I look at the top of B tier compared to the bottom of B tier, like, there's a big gap. So maybe I should have had like one extra tier. Like, maybe all these guys should have been in F tier or something, but whatever. Meowstic, is not good. It's just a prankster Pokemon that can set up screens, but isn't weak to Fairy, so it's like C tier. We've seen it have usage previously, so it's fine. It's like an alternative to Grimmsnarl. Just has different typing and different weaknesses. So Primarina also gonna be C tier. Like, it's pretty nice damage option. It's per song too, I think. I remember losing to the middle form with Eviolite once in Sword and Shield. So I think it's a solid option. Pretty bulky, nice special attack. And then Araquanid, I'm also gonna put in B tier because I like Araquanid. I think it has a lot of nice damage capability. However, again, it doesn't like Intimidates, which are going to be super common, but it can hit back really hard. And now we have Clear Amulet as an option. Terrestrialization, you can go into water for even more damage. It could be an option under Trick Room for some of those teams, like, maybe Porygon 2 plus Araquanid, and then 4 just regular Pokemon that can work in or out of Trick Room. So you have like kind of a hybrid team. That's kind of how I would envision Araquanid being used in this format. So looking at the list, I'm just going to leave it as is. Yeah, Hydrapple maybe a C tier, but whatever. So that's kind of my take on all of these Pokemon. Let me know down in the comments, you guys agree with my takes? You disagree? You think maybe I'm being too kind to some of these Pokemon? Like maybe some of these new future Paradox forms? You think I'm being too negative on some Pokemon like Smeargle? You guys, maybe you've already come up with some degenerate ways to use Smeargle yourselves. Who knows? Let me know down in the comments. But that's going to be it for my tier list. I don't really plan on doing, the non-scripted, non-edited kind of content too much anymore, because a lot of my focus is going to be on that, like my previous Arcanine video. So I've got a lot of plans for those scripted, edited videos, so definitely stay tuned for more of them. But in terms of my, unscripted, just me talking for, I don't even know how long this has been. Oh my god, maybe like 40 minutes or something. So for those of you who are even still here, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.